Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session. I'm Dana Alomar, technology reporter from the National News, and today's session is quite an interesting one. It is Powering Progress, Reinventing Energy and Industry for Lasting Prosperity. As we look ahead in 2030, which is 5 years from now, the energy sector is poised for a significant transformation with a projected $400 billion annual investment in clean technologies by global energy companies. This shift presents a unique opportunity to reshape the future of energy, industrial infrastructure, and sustainability. Today's panel will explore how energy companies, with their vast expertise in production, distribution, and infrastructure, are uniquely positioned to drive clean technology deployment, manage the transition to renewable energy, and unlock substantial new value in the evolving energy markets. So without further ado, let's dive into our discussion. But before that, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel of experts, Mr. Musabbeh Al Kaabi, CEO of Upstream at ADNOC, Mr. Øyvind Eriksen, President and CEO of Aker ASA, Mr. Steve Kelly, President and CEO of 1.5 International, and lastly, Mr. Trenton Thornock, Founder and CEO of Prometheus Hyperscale. To begin, Mr. Trenton Thornock, I'd like to ask you, in light of the rapid advancement in clean energy technologies, what do you see as the biggest barrier to scaling these solutions globally, and how can the energy sector overcome it?
Sure. So the journey in terms of scaling these clean energy solutions globally, I think we can liken to the redwood tree in California. It has a very tiny seed, but everyone knows that there's a massive potential there, and it carries within it monumental capabilities. And of course, that requires sun, water, good earth, and most of all, time. So we need a cohesive, scalable infrastructure ecosystem in order to levelize this for the whole world. So most of my time is spent thinking about what happens in the US, but we have the same issues that we're seeing globally, and that is that trying to integrate solar, nuclear, and other types of clean energy into systems that were designed for fossil fuels is creating all sorts of fragmentation. And as a result of that fragmentation, we see delays, we see discrepancies between what policy ambitions are and what real-world implementation is. And so really the ecosystem is the barrier. And there are kind of three ways that we can break down that barrier. The first one is resilient infrastructure, and what I mean by that is infrastructure that is modular, that is adaptable, and that is a platform that can integrate various types of energy inputs and do that seamlessly. And this is particularly important right now around the world as AI is taking up more and more energy. I think the second way is collaboration, and that has to do with government, the private sector, and also research and development. And I think the last way is through culture. So, what we've tried to do in our company, and what I've seen demonstrated here, especially this morning, was a real culture of optimism and a bias toward action. And I think getting us all on the same page in terms of alignment will help us to overcome that barrier.
Definitely. I think it's really important to be on the same page. And with regards to being on the same page, Mr. Musabbeh, I want to know, how can traditional energy companies effectively manage the energy transformation to scale up all energy sources and to meet the growing demand?
Thank you. I think when you look at the energy outlook from now until 2050, that's where most of the climate targets are, and net zero targets are, it's clear that the energy demand is growing. The total energy demand is increasing by 20%. Electricity power is almost doubling. So as a responsible energy producer, we have twofold of a challenge. One, is to decarbonize the energy of today while investing in the energy of tomorrow. What I mean by energy of tomorrow, renewables, the alternative energy, so all sort of renewables, plus I would stress on the low carbon intensity products. In ADNOC and in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE in general, we always take a long-term view. So the UAE was the first country in the region to sign Paris Agreement, the first country to set net zero target by 2050. So that cascaded to all the institutions in the country, including ADNOC. So in ADNOC, we take a very long view when it comes to the energy. So we believe that all energy sources by 2050, we need all energy sources to meet the growing demand. So as a company, we embraced a more pragmatic and practical way of decarbonizing our operation, and we are among the lowest carbon intensity producers when it comes to the traditional energies of oil and gas, while investing in the energies of tomorrow through our investment in Masdar. And today, Masdar announced a very first of its kind, a project around-the-clock renewables with a base load of 1 gigawatt. That's transformational, and hopefully it's going to reshape the energy, the alternative energy and the renewable energy. When it comes to ADNOC, we also set a very ambitious targets, 10 million ton of carbon capture by 2030. We allocated $23 billion of investments to reach our targets. We also, through the UAE consensus in COP28, we were the founder of, one of the founders of a big initiative called OGDC, Oil and Gas Decarbonization Target, and that's very important because it helps a lot of players, 50 so far, of traditional oil and gas players to reach a concrete and specific targets by 2030 and beyond.
Definitely, and discussing decarbonization, we're in the region or the country that focuses a lot on also technological advancements. And Mr. Eriksen, I want to know, because ADNOC also uses a lot of AI, digitalization, and their aim is for decarbonization. I want to know, how can energy companies as well effectively leverage this advancing technology, whether it's artificial intelligence and industrial digitalization technologies, to drive efficiency in existing infrastructure and accelerate decarbonization efforts?
Sure. So our data and AI company, Cognite, has the pleasure of collaborating with ADNOC already. And that collaboration proves that AI is one of the most profound technological inflection points of the 21st century. It's real, it's available, it works, it impacts at scale capital allocation and investments, and it's about to redefine winners and losers, both in existing businesses and in new business areas. Still, leaders complain about lack of value realization from the investments in AI tools. So, why? And the first reason why companies struggle to realize value is the fact that they have not organized their data properly. So without a complete and quality assured set of data, AI has hardly any value. Our company, Cognite, provides a technology which solves that and enables, already today, AI with a significant value outtake. When you have solved the data problem, it's all about change management, how to reskill your workforce, how to change your organizations, and how also to amend your working processes to take full advantage of new technology tools, including AI. And we have already proven some very, very exciting results. Let me spend a few seconds on 3 examples. First is utilization of the grid, which is important basically to provide more energy without significant investments in new infrastructure. With AI, we have helped the Norwegian national grid to boost the utilization of their existing grid. Another example is operation. When a piece of equipment fails, we typically run what we call root cause analysis. Last year, our engineers spent 6 months on identifying the root cause. Subsequently, we tried to do exactly the same with AI on top of Cognite's technology. It took 5 days. And last but not least, capital projects. The world will need an enormous amount of new project developments in order both to provide energy security and a transition. There's an enormous amount of waste throughout the value chain. AI has already proven that we can save a lot of engineering hours and we can fast-track procurement. And what I just described is exactly the approach taken by ADNOC here in UAE. So the piece of advice is look to ADNOC and look to this part of the world.
Definitely. With the rise of so many innovative solutions and that lead to so much efficiency. Mr. Kelly, we spoke in the Speakers Lounge about something quite interesting that I was intrigued by, and it was about the 24/7 power with no emissions. This is quite an innovative idea as well. I want you to elaborate more about it. Can you talk to me more about the 24/7 power with no emission?
Yes, thank you. So our 1.5's parent company, Occidental, is an investor in a company called NetPower, which is developing a really exciting technology that can help solve part of the problem that Dr. Sultan talked about this morning with the announcement that he made about the dispatchable power from solar and batteries. This provides an opportunity to deliver dispatchable power using natural gas, but with the CO2 that's produced by the combustion of the natural gas, which takes place in pure oxygen rather than air. And then the CO2 that's produced is the motive fluid in the turbine that generates the electricity. So this is a quite revolutionary way of going about generating electricity using natural gas. It doesn't require an additional carbon capture plant to be added to it. The CO2 is captured as a natural part of the process, and then that CO2 can be taken, it can be sequestered in a saline aquifer, it could be utilized in products, or it could be utilized in enhanced oil recovery, and so on. So this is there's a demonstration scale plant in South Houston, and the company NetPower is going to build the first utility scale plant in the Permian Basin within Oxy's operations for commissioning and startup in late 2027, early 2028.
Great. I'm deviating a little bit from the topic of that. I'm more curious with Mr. Thornock's idea about how can energy companies effectively collaborate with technology startups and research institutions. I think this is the most important thing with every single company, to listen to everybody's insights, whether it's a startup or a research institution, to accelerate innovation and to drive down the cost of clean energy technologies.
Right, so this is probably going to happen one collaboration at a time. And we talked about the different parties involved. I kind of think of this as building a suspension bridge, and you have all the cables that hang down, right? So the first one is the energy company like ADNOC. The second one is a technology company like Cognite or 1.5. The third one would be startups like ourselves. And maybe the fourth one is research institutes. And I think what's going to be required is for all of our organizations to work together to try to create a bearing cable, that kind of goes across the top of the bridge that carries the weight of innovation. And we have to do that together, because trying to do it in a disjointed fashion, I don't think gets us to where we want to be. It doesn't get us from where we are now across the chasm to where we think we want to be in the future. And I think there are also 4 pillars that support that innovation bridge. The first one's alignment, the second one is integration, and the third one is scaling. What I mean by alignment is making sure that we have shared goals. And that helps us get to effective collaboration. In terms of integration, I see integration across both the value and the supply chains. And the best example I have of that is our partnership with an SMR company in the US called Oklo, which is chaired by a guy named Sam Altman. When we started talking to them, we realized that combining their knowledge of their business along with our ability to reuse waste heat produced an effect where we can have 7x24 carbon-free energy on the upstream and also enable different types of industrial processes on the downstream.
I want to actually touch base on the idea of collaboration and regulation. Mr. Musabbeh, I want to understand, because we're in the region and we are in the UAE, and you are the CEO of Upstream for ADNOC. What role can policy and regulatory frameworks play in pushing energy companies to invest in clean technology and facilitate a smooth transition to a low-carbon energy system?
I think when you look at in order to move through a just, orderly, and equitable energy transition, it's very clear that there are two enablers. One, of course, is the technology, and my colleagues address that. And I think that technology hopefully will play a big role, because taking solar, for example, I remember 2008, 2009, when we introduced solar in Abu Dhabi, it was almost in the mid 40 cents per kilowatt hour. Today, it's around 1.3, 1.4 cents per kilowatt, a significant reduction. I expect a lot of technology advancement will happen in that space, in the energy transition. The second enabler, which is very important, as you highlighted, is the government policies. We've seen a lot of government policies, and I think it's very important, very critical, because inherently, when you look at the alternatives, they are costly. How do you incentivize customers and players to play in this space? I think by introducing the right policies. And we've seen the big debate now about IRA in the US. It's the right step, of course, to incentivize a lot of these new technologies. In other countries, they adopt contract for difference, CFD. So I think a sort of a government policies is required to drive the energy transition.
I think also the most important thing, other than government policies and regulations, is public perception and how to teach the public to understand that there's a problem. And that's why I want to follow up with Mr. Eriksen. What role do energy companies play in influencing public perception and consumer adoption of renewable energy technologies? And what can be done to drive more widespread acceptance? How can energy companies deliver the correct message for people? I know ADNOC, for example, with Masdar, with ADNOC, they're very big on marketing and delivering the message correctly on to take it seriously. What about you? What's your opinion?
Well, I think it's more about behavior and communication than marketing, quite frankly. But communication is, as we all know, about a messenger and a recipient. And if the two are not tuned in at the same frequency, it's very hard to get the perception or narrative right. We as energy leaders, we are too often, in my opinion, misjudging the audience by approaching the discussion with an overwhelming amount of facts and figure, and not paying sufficient attention to the fact that the recipient is very often concerned about climate change, which is not only about facts, but also about emotions. So, in my experience, it starts with a transparent and honest acknowledgement of the issues we all are committed to solve. And it follows with communication both in words and in action. At Aker, the company I have been running for the last 16 years, we realized the fact that nothing tells more than the way we're operating and running our own business. Hence, to reduce our environmental footprint as much as possible is a guiding principle and a very motivating factor for our employees. Then it's about how our industry also can contribute to the change. The energy industry as a driving force for AI has already been mentioned, and there are numerous examples about how the technology and competency of existing energy companies is instrumental to to drive the change.
What about-
And last but not least, avoid polarization, because ultimately we have the same objectives.
Definitely. And Mr. Kelly, we were also discussing that. What's your opinion on the how energy companies can push public and change the public perception and push the public into being more sustainable?
Well, I think that we can demonstrate that we can deliver projects. I think we talk about technology, and there are many narratives out there that some things don't work. There's maybe people skeptical about the track record of things like CCUS. Oxy is building, and 1.5 is developing our first commercial scale direct air capture plant. We're commissioning it at the moment. Will be commercially operational by the middle of this year. This is a technology that I think that the public has been thinking about as a future tech that one day will help, but we're demonstrating that it's here and now. This technology is going to be absolutely vital for hard-to-abate sectors all around the world to deliver their net zero targets. So we say what we're going to do, and then we deliver. That's what we need to be doing.
Definitely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending this panel conversation. Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists as well. Your insights are always valuable. Thank you so much.
Thank you.